How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading with the prices going up or down. U.S. bank lending drops by a record $105 billion in 2 weeks. Trillions moving into money market accounts. And I'm not going to cover the other part because that's not important. Everyone's calling for issues. So, statistics show that there are still plenty of signs that the U.S. banking system is feeling the aftermath of several high-profile bank collapses. Both SVB and SBNY were placed under government control. The U.S. Federal Reserve, Treasury, and Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation bailed out SBNY and SVB's uninsured depositors and made all depositors whole. So the government bailed out the banks. Or, well, at least the depositors of the banks, not just the bank itself. Since then, the banking contagion, not the crypto contagion that they've been warning you about, has spread across the United States and internationally, with financial institutions like SVB UK and Credit Suisse faltering. So, the banks are collapsing, but they warned you that the crypto industry was going to collapse and bring the banks with it, when in reality, it was the other way around. Alexander Tansey from Bloomberg explains that the loans consist of industrial, commercial, and real estate loans. Furthermore, last week saw $64.7 billion in commercial bank deposits removed from the financial institutions, which has marked the 10th straight weekly decline in deposits. Another sign of trouble is a spike in federal home loan bank bond issuance in March. Jack Farley, a journalist that works for Blockworks, explained that it is over 6 times the post-GFC average for the month of March, and it indicates banks are scrambling for cash. So this indicator is indicating that banks are not being able to cover their loans, and they're taking out bonds from, like, government bonds, so a loan from the government, in order to cover their short-term shortcomings. Trillions of dollars are being drained out of banks into money market funds. This weakens the banks. Fear that banks are a risk is driving this trend, thus making banks even weaker. So, on to the last article for today. Not too much going on. Indian man tries to jump off a bridge after suffering losses in crypto. So before we read this article, I just want to start by saying this article is an explanation or an example of why you don't want to risk more than you're willing to lose, and why it is a bad idea to take loans out for investments, because if you take a loan out and you're not able to pay that loan, you can end up in a position like this. So a 23-year-old professional with a major tech company who lost nearly approximately $37,500 in the cryptocurrency market tried to commit suicide by jumping off a river bridge in Kolkata, India. A cab driver noticed the young man on the bridge, and he alerted nearby police about this and his intentions. The police were able to prevent the guy from jumping off the bridge, thus saving his life. However, if the cab driver didn't notice and say something, then his life may not have been saved. On being questioned, the youth told the police that he had used money from loans, valuables, and even his mother's pension to invest in cryptocurrencies, and he had suffered huge losses. In recent weeks, he was reportedly receiving threatening calls from people who had lent him. So see, this is a prime example why you do not want to loan money from other people, even if they're family. Because if you end up short, you're going to have some problems. And those problems ultimately led to this guy trying to take his own life. So be careful and don't risk more than you're willing to lose. So we did come up right to our resistance area, but we'll get into that when we get to these lower time frames. You can see that on the bigger candle, we have pretty much a spinning top. We broke to our resistance here at our 28.4, and we got rejected. So this is somewhat of a bottom signal as we're rounding up, so that is positive, and we bounced off our point control. Momentum is coming down, even though price is making higher highs, so that is somewhat of a bearish divergence we're setting. So stochastic's trying to run up, money flow is coming up, VWAP's coming up, RSI is heading up, and we have a green dot on the momentum. So overall, we have some bullish signals, but I'd be a little weary because this momentum is setting up that divergence. Over on the 4-hour, we kind of have our reverse bull dot signal that you get like right here. So we may get a little more run up. Maybe we hit this high value area, at which point that divergence plays out. We'll have to kind of see if that is the case. Stochastic's trying to run up here on the 4 hour with RSI, so we're trying to make some pushes forward. Our VWAP's making a strong push forward. Our money flow is trying to break that neutral zone, so this is a pivotal spot, as we'll need to break that zone and hold above it. Our momentum looks like it could start to round off, even though we got this bullish divergence that played out. So it could be this bullish divergence played out on the 4 hour, and now we'll see a bearish divergence on the daily take over. Over on the 2 hour, that's why sometimes like lower time frames will give you a short-term pattern. That's why when we make patterns on the lower time frames, you notice you don't get that big of moves. But when I show you a pattern that's bigger on like a 4 hour or 1 day, then those tend to play out a little more strongly because it's a bigger, longer time frame, so it takes longer for those moves to play out. So usually they are a more volatile move. So we are starting to fall away from our resistance, so watch out for that. Our RSI is pointing down, but our stochastic's making a strong run up. VWAP's starting to falter here, and our money flow overall has been heading down even though price is going up, so that's a little concerning. Our momentum is somewhat starting to curl, so this could have been just one big manipulation pump. If we take a peek on the 1 hour, money flow did break bullish, however we're struggling to hold. Momentum's starting to round off, our VWAP is starting to taper off, stochastic has a bearish cross and is heading down, and our RSI is heading down. So if we're not able to maintain this money flow on the 1 hour, it's likely we'll get rejected from here, at which point we may finally fall out of this range and possibly fill that CME gap after ranging here for like 2 or 3 weeks now. So over on graph on the daily, let's see what's going on here. Looks like we got bounce off our resistance, which is somewhat good for us, but with the way Bitcoin's looking, I went way too much on that. Our money flow is heading up, pointing upwards, but it is in the bearish zone, so bears do have control. Our VWAP is kind of flat here, so the medium-term trend is pretty flat, but with the bears having control, it could round off. If we start to see that round off, be cautionary. Our momentum's still heading down, stochastic's still heading down, but it could start to round here. If it starts to round with the stochastic rounding, we could try to push up away from here, but we'll need to break this resistance then. So that's what we have going on the daily, kind of flat. Over on the 4 hour, our VWAP is heading up. Money flows was trying to head up, but it's kind of curling away and starting to flatten out. So I'd watch the next few candles, as that flattening out is a little concerning. Our momentum wave is trying to come up with a green dot, so that is a positive sign. Our stochastic's heading up, our RSI is starting to curl, and our stochastic has bearish divergences forming, so we could just continue forming these divergences, at which point that could drag us down, kind of like we are seeing on Bitcoin. Over on the 2 hour, we're getting a little bit of a reversal arrow, so might be able to pump from here. I don't know. These reversal arrows get kind of scammy sometimes. Sometimes they give you a move, sometimes they don't really give you anything. That's why I don't pay much attention to them. Our stochastic's running up, RSI is starting to curl, VWAP's starting to curl, money flow is starting to curl and rejecting from it was attempting to cross, so that is a bearish sign. And our momentum looks like it could start to curl here, at which point, if that does happen, then all our indicators on the 2 hour would be curling bearish and in agreement, so that'd be concerning for drop down, as we could go back into this pattern and see it play out after all. Stochastic's starting to round off and head down, RSI is starting to head down with a red dot on the 1 hour, and our momentum's starting to kind of round off here. VWAP is heading down. Our money flow tried to break bullish, but it's flopping down into the bearish zone, so I'd be cautionary of that, as the bulls tried to gain control, but they ultimately failed. Over on ankr for the daily, kind of bouncing around here, making a range up. Still have that somewhat ascending triangle here, so that could be a positive move if Bitcoin's able to pump from here. Stochastic's looking kind of worrisome, as we're getting divergences highlighting. Stochastic's starting to drop, RSI's starting to drop, momentum's starting to curl with a red dot that happened a couple days ago. VWAP rejected crossing neutral, and our money flow is starting to come down slightly after being somewhat flat. So I'd say we're pretty pretty bearish looking at best. We are right on that resistance still, trying to maintain. So if we can get a push off here, that would be a bullish sign. However, a break of this zone would ultimately signal that the bears have control. This could be a little bit of a bottom signal here with this candle. You have to get confirmation with the next candle, as this is a hammer candle, and if these happen at bottoms, then they tend to give you a decent move back up. So we have a long lower shadow that represents sellers tried to push us down to this point down here at 3412, but they ultimately failed to hold that zone and got brought back up to our support area. So that's positive for our bulls, as if we can get above that support, we can get moving. And we also have that point of control, so that's kind of why we just have that hammerhead right there. It's got a lot of resistance and support where it's at. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we're starting to kind of round up, so that could be a positive sign. Stochastic's heading up. Money flows flat against that neutral zone, so that's not good. Stochastic's trying to head up. Our VWAP is trying to head up. Our momentum's trying to head up. And our RSI is trying to head up. So we do have signals trying to head up, but that money flow is struggling to cross. So if we get rejected from here and that money flow starts to curl away, then I'd be cautionary. Over on the 2 hour, shows we're above support, even though on the lower time frames we're below it. So our money flow is kind of starting to taper off here after trying to come up. Momentum's coming up. VWAP's starting to round in the bullish zone, so that's not positive. Our RSI is starting to round off and could come down. Our stochastic's pretty high, so that could start to round here as well, with everything else starting to round. So overall, we look like we could take a little bit of a breather here. Over on the 1 hour, we are seeing all those rounds that we have on the 2 hour. Our money flow is overall coming up, but rejected across to the bullish zone, so I'd watch out for it to come back lower and us to lose this support. If we bounce off this support, that would be a good sign, but we need money flow to start to curl away and come in. Over on XRP, one of the few slight gainers of the day, we're still just ranging around. Momentum's overall starting to kind of curl off and taper off, so that is positive, as that could signal that we might get a green dot soon. Our stochastic is falling. Our money flow doesn't know where it wants to go, and our VWAP is somewhat curling away from the neutral zone, so our medium term is curling away, so be a little cautionary, and our RSI is flat. Over on the 4 hour, our stochastic's trying to run up. Our money flow is somewhat starting to round up, so that could be a positive sign. Momentum's starting to round up with a green dot. Excuse me again. Our VWAP's starting to make a run up, and our RSI is trying to run up. So overall, we are trying to pull forward, but we're not really getting much ground here. Over on the 2 hour, stochastics are running up, but RSI is starting to curl away, and so is our VWAP. Money flow rejected crossing bullish and is starting to curl away from the neutral zone. Our momentum wave looks like it could start to round off and fall here. So overall on the 2 hour, it looks like we could start to fall. We are getting a bit of a tweezer top candle that could form here, as we have a big green candle and a big red candle, so we could drop down from here, so be cautionary. 1 hour, we're kind of dropping away. Money flows in the red, stochastic's heading down, RSI's heading down, momentum's coming down, and our VWAP is coming down. So overall, we are coming down on the 1 hour, and our money flow is struggling to even go anywhere, so if that money flow can get a reversal, that might be a positive sign for us, but we'll have to see how everything else is looking. Last but not least, on algo, we have a slight green candle, but we have a manipulation X printing here, so that is cause for concern. Stochastic's losing ground. It might try to make a run up. Our RSI is pretty flat. Our momentum is starting to taper off and is heading down, testing that neutral zone. Our VWAP is heading down. and our money flow is coming out, so algo's pretty beat down as far as indicators go, as far as everything else, at least relative to the rest of the coins we're looking at. Again, if there's any coins you want to see that we don't cover, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Our RSI is starting to curl up, stochastic's trying to curl up, money flow slight cross to the bullish side, but it doesn't really have much power behind it. VWAP's trying to head up, and our momentum wave's trying to head up, but it is looking like we could try to round, like you kind of see in here. Over on the 2 hour, VWAP's kind of flattening out, so that's cause for concern. Money flow is in the bearish zone, but it is trying to test bullish, so that could be a positive sign if we're able to get a bullish cross. Our RSI is rounding off, and our stochastic's heading up pretty strongly. So with the RSI and VWAP kind of rounding and the way the momentum wave looks like it could round, our money flow might start to pull away from here and drop out, at which point that'd be concerning. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic's starting to head down, RSI is starting to head down, momentum's starting to curl, VWAP's got a strong curl, but our money flow is trying to cross bullish. If we could get a bullish cross and some kind of green dots, that could invalidate a bearish move down, but we'll have to wait for some confirmation. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.